Hey everybody, I'm Joey Evans and I have something to admit here on camera for all of you. I like Zombicide. I do. I know gamers are like, what? You like Zombicide? It's Ameritrash. But spoiler alert, it's made like $1 trillion on Kickstarter. So there are some people out there that are lying, that like Zombicide. And if you're like me, you like Zombicide enough that you know you want to like it more. And how do you do that? House rules. Everyone's got them, whether you admit it or not, whether you call it just a small fudge or not. Everyone's got house rules. So let's go through some of my favorite house rules for Zombicide. Okay, so actually the idea of this video was actually come from you guys because I did do a video out there that is called, I think it's like 5 games I house ruled, and one of them was Zombicide. And I just cut a couple of house rules and put them in there, and a large number of comments were like, hey, why don't you talk about more of those Zombicide house rules? Because I realized there are so many iterations of Zombicide out there that people do house rule this, and there are a lot of house rules. So I have listed a lot of my favorite house rules that we're going to go through, and really this video is going to be a good place for you to see some ideas, and also I do want you to put comments on some of your favorite house rules. Now again, these are house rules that aren't always implemented because it really is one of those things about the game experience you want. Maybe if for newer people you want it to be moderately challenging, and if for experienced gamers you want it to go hard. So there are some house rules in here that make the game harder. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but I guess you might be a glutton for punishment. So pretty much, so here are some different house rules. I'm going to go through them. Again, these are I don't use all of these, but these are some of the ones I've used and I like, and sometimes I go back to. First off, Abominations. Abominations are the core, the kind of focal point of Zombicide. Because later they come out so many different Abominations that are so fun, they come out, but they can be game changing. Well, they are game changing when they do come out. So a couple of house rules I have on that. First off, that you can't have an Abomination until you get to the first color. That is one thing I kind of usually generally do. So because that way Abomination will just change the entire flair of a game. If it does come in the spawn deck, you kind of ignore it and you shuffle it back and go to the next spawn. That's something I usually do and wait for the Abominations to come out later. Because for me, thematically, those big bads are going to come out towards later in the story. So that's what I do. Now, as far as how to kill these guys, let's go to that in a moment too. Actually, I'll talk about it now. A couple ways we do it. We sometimes stick with the main Abomination, the way to kill them, but another way to do it is to give them actual hit points. And the hit points are going to kind of accrue. So Abominations can now be damaged by 2+ damage weapons, and they're going to have different health depending on your danger level. So it could be like 6, 7, 8, or 9. Now what's interesting about this is that makes it where you don't have to find a certain weapon to kill it, because otherwise you kind of forget about where you're going, just try to kill this Abomination, try to find whatever it is, Molotov cocktail or whatever, to kill them. But this is another way that those weapons, those combined hits, can kill it. But you only have one turn to kill it. Because if you don't kill by the first turn, you don't get enough hit points to knock that thing out, then it's going to re-heal and you have to do it again. So that is one thing that we do like as far as Abominations. I do use that occasionally because that does make them a bit more manageable. Molotov cocktails still always kill Abominations. And then another thing is Abominations can never get 3 activations on one turn. So base activation is 2, so they can't get another activation the turn. So because a lot of times that just kind of pushes the game too far. Now again, these are just my ideas for these different house rules. Your mileage may vary. Okay, weapon targeting. This is another thing that when you target with your weapons, I know initially you would be shooting survivors first. That was gotten rid of later, but that also brings me to another thing that I do is if I ever play first edition, which I do occasionally, but you always adopt those older rules or the newer rules in the first edition. So again, you don't hit your survivors first, and you only hit on misses. And that's something that the later iterations have, but I do incorporate that in everything. So you only hit when you miss. Which honestly, I was talking to Z, and he said this is actually caused for, once this rule change happened, for more people to get shot. Because if you shoot in there and you shoot survivors first, you're not going to shoot in there. But if you only hit them on a miss, you're like, okay, I'm going to try this out. So anyway, that's for targeting. Now also experience-wise, moving up those levels, one of the things that due to bad luck or the way your team is playing, some survivors just don't level up and accumulate experience as much as other ones. One thing I've played with before is a lot of these survivors, like each survivor will gain at least 1 experience at the end of a round if there's at least 1 survivor that's a level ahead of them. So that might work out well if you have one person that's just kind of running around and harvesting different things and getting things. It's more the runner. So everyone in the team will level up and help them kind of raise their level. All right, so now doors. This one I've only played with a couple times and it was very interesting. It's the fact that zombies can actually open doors. This I've played with a few times, not crazy about it, but it does add some variability to make it harder because if enough zombies get in that door, then it's like you kind of walk through and they're in there and you can just move on through. That kind of feels anticlimactic. So if it's a horde of zombies of about 8, they can actually bust down that door and get out. So if enough of them come and hear the noise out there, they're going to thematically bust through and get through to you in the hallway. That for me just adds a lot of theme. Now, they cannot bust through objective doors like this, but if it's just a door leading to a hallway, you're out there shooting and all this stuff's happening, they're going to eventually bust through. And I think our number is usually 8, I think, or if there's 12 on the 2 spaces out there, they're going to go through. Okay, so now searching is another big thing. It's a main focal point of Zombicide, and people have played with searching a lot. There are a couple of different mindsets on that. Number one, no one likes camping where you just sit there and search. You're trying to find certain things. So, but some scenarios, you have to find something. In those cases, I think a lot of times I have kind of limited the search deck to where it won't drag out this one scenario. It'll be more of the stuff that you actually need, but also some frivolous stuff you can find as well. Now, as far as searches go, I've seen the house rule to where you can only search in each room once. That's really hardcore mode. What we do is actually, we use a D3. So in other words, it's D6 divided by 2 rounded up. And that's how many times you can search. And then you can do that by having those little treasure chests and putting them in the room. And that's how many times you can search in that room. And then once those are all gone, you can no longer search in that area. So that's what we do to kind of keep everybody moving along and eliminate camping. Okay, one thing I do to add difficulty occasionally, if you are going to go through a scenario that's a bit easier, you've played it before, then I actually add a spawn round before you begin at certain spawn points to kind of prime the map and get some monsters out there. I don't do it a lot, but it's fun to try. Okay, so this is a fun one. This is specialty zombies. These could be specialty zombies that you get out of a certain pack, and they're different molds or different actual characters, and they may not have abilities on their own that make them special. It's just kind of the way they're, really the mold of it. But also, some of the walkers, my wife, because she goes to paint all these zombies, she'll paint some specially. Like we have a walker that looks like Beetlejuice. We have a brute that looks like Thanos. So all of that. Now, what's interesting is when you pull these guys out, we will make it to where you'll get 3 experience points for killing that particular one. And that just makes the game more enjoyable for us. Like we have one that is just called Steve. He's painted just look like Steve. I don't know what a Steve looks like, but he looks like this zombie. So every time Steve comes out, people are like, I should stay here, but I gotta go kill Steve. So pretty much that's a fun thing to add some experience points to it. Okay, here's some weapons, different house rules I've got for weapons. One that we do use all the time, first off, is you can dual wield any weapon. If it has a dual wield symbol, yeah, I should say that, then you can dual wield it. They don't have to be matching weapons. I think that, in my mind, is just wonderful. If you have a machete in one hand and then on the other hand you've just got a pistol or whatever, that looks pretty good, in my mind for theme. So you can do that. We also have done in the past that some melee weapons can be thrown, but if they are thrown, they are lost, and it hits on that. I don't play with that one a lot. Another one is if you roll a 6 on an attack, it can deal a headshot, dealing +1 damage. So this also allows 1 damage weapons to kill 2 damage zombies. Now, Abominations can't be killed this way, but you could possibly kill a brute or something with that. So, and then also, played once with rolling a 1 will jam the weapon. Did not play with that ever again. That is extremely a bad idea. But throwing that out there. And then there's a new action, aim. We've added this occasionally because that kind of gives you the sniper, right? So you can choose your target and ignore friendly fire. So it's going to take, instead of shooting, you could take one action to aim and then the action to shoot. So that is something we do incorporate later if you are trying to get in there, and that does add some more theme. Okay, so item-wise, a few things with items. One thing I've done since the first iteration is I made it to where you can eat food. You can spend, I went between 2 and 3 actions, and you can discard a food item to heal 1 wound. I've done that since the beginning. It's worked well for me because that makes it to where when you find food, it's not just a bust. I've tried it to where if it's food and water, you can combine it, and then all of a sudden you can heal a wound that way. So that's something I've done with items. Again, I've made it to where when items are discarded, when you reorganize your inventory, they are dropped in that room and they can be picked up later if someone goes through that room. That being said, if a zombie or something ever goes through that room, then that item is discarded and you can no longer get it. So there's a time that you have to get in there and get that item before it disappears forever. One person actually put, if a survivor drinks water, they must immediately go to the bathroom. We played that once. Yeah. Would not put that into your everyday game. Just said, Pretty funny though, but there it is. Okay, so now player elimination, which is really big about it. If one of your people of your party dies, then you do lose the game. We don't play that way. We play that later. If you will find another survivor that is hiding in the dumpster, hiding somewhere else, and they can pull them through and you can try to complete your mission. We found that works for us. And then finally, communication. Communication, this is the big one. This is the one that we do every time. And you can only communicate with somebody if you're in the same room. That really solves the alpha gaming problem. And the way we do it is if you're in that room, you can talk to them. But if you talk to them and you're not in that room, we've done it to where you could actually take a wound because you're not paying attention to what's going on around you. You're more worried about what's going on over here and trying to alpha game them than fending off your area here. So you would take a wound. But that really does eliminate the alpha gaming problem for us. Okay, so again, those are just some house rules. I've gotten some of those from different game groups and things, and I've seen them, and those are some that work for me. I don't use all of them, but it is one of those things I'll use in different iterations and different situations to really cater Zombicide to the group I'm playing with. So I'm really interested in hearing what house rules work for you on Zombicide. Everything from first edition to second edition to Black Plague to really Marvel Zombies, any of those systems, because they're really ripe for house ruling. And I'd love to hear a lot of those because really it's our game and it's our game to enjoy. So type a lot of those in the comments. I'm really anxious to read them. So, all right, I'm Joy Evans and I'm going to go hunt zombies.
Hey folks, thanks for joining us for that video. If you haven't yet, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hey, make sure you check out what's happening where I'll cover an app on an iOS or a Switch device, and you can check it out along with me. Thanks very much. You've been watching The Dice Tower.
Don't get mad at me for these. These are just ideas that I've had. Some I still use, some I don't. If you do get mad at me, don't, because remember, there's somebody out there that made this. Right?